Yeah. Yeah. Where are you at, bitch? It's a bear. It was smelling my food. It's a bear cub. It seemed small and quick, but it was a black bear. And it took off this way. I fucking, like a retard, left my goddamn jiggler hootin'. Oh, I see eyes. What the fuck? There's a reflection of my flashlight on the taillights or something. So I left all my fucking food right outside my tent like an idiot. I'm watching Inglourious Bastards and I hear... So I'm like, fuck, it's just a fox or something. I open the tent and it's a fucking bear cub staring at me. I'm like, okay. Oh god, because I know its mom is probably right there, and I just saw a video like a couple hours ago of a black bear carrying a screaming fat hog, and it wasn't my mom. Up a hill, and it was screaming, and I was like, fuck, I never want that to happen to me. A couple hours go by, and there's a bear cub outside. So, jiggle-a-hootin', we're gonna hang out here for a minute. I'm gonna take a piss, and then we're gonna go on a walk. Weird things happened today. I won't show you my face just because I'm taking a whiz, but I'm gonna talk. Bruce, what happened in Bruce? There was a bear outside my tent, so I'm having a bit of a freak out. I'm taking a whiz. I got a bunch of. It was a really good day for me. Yeah, tomorrow. Where do you live, Bruce? Tomorrow I'm getting a huge thunderstorm. It's gonna be all day. I have a bunch of news actually. Word has gotten around that a group of kids tried to crush my head with a log. And people aren't like, oh, I'm sorry that happened. They're coming up to me and they're saying, I heard you got hit with a stick. And I have to be like, come on, man. I'm trying to go to the cabin. I'll show you. Redneck Fishing and More. Is that Uncle Will? Is that your account? Because I haven't heard from Will in a while. We're gonna go back in. There might be a black bear out here. There was a bear cub, and I don't think they go too far from their mom. So we're gonna see what happens. Oh, yeah, this really... I think she might be my age. Police officer came out to talk to me today. And a couple people I've been hearing about. I'm the caveman. I'm the caveman that it was a bunch of kids were all like, it was the first day of school and all of them were out getting ready for sports. School had just ended. And then suddenly there's a barefoot caveman with the wild hair carrying a log and chasing a group of kids through everyone. I'm an idiot. I'm a retard. I left my food right here. So we're gonna take this. Let me put you down for a second. Jiggle-a-hoots. Jiggle-a-boon. Oh god. Jiggle-a-boon. Okay. Flame on. I'm gonna need this because it's gonna thunderstorm tomorrow all day. But it's the 33rd annual Celtic New World Fest happening, and I was invited. They just randomly walked up and gave me a free ticket to the New World 33rd annual Celtic Festival at the Music Center, where I beat someone with a hatchet when I first got to this town. And they just gave me a free ticket, man. And then I walked into another place. A couple girls came up to me to tell me they heard about what happened at the school, and they seemed interested in me, man. But one of them, I was like, one of them even took a step towards me, and I was like, fuck, don't let her see how yellow your teeth is. Play it cool. Jiggle a hoot. Jiggle a hoogan. Jiggle a hoogan, you ever heard about the three-eye atlas, the object? Yeah, you told. Yeah. So, I mean, if they know something we don't, they put out that movie, and it keeps getting recommended to me. Leonardo DiCaprio's in it. It's about this exact thing. It's like, what would you do with the time you have left before the alien asteroid collides with Earth and kills everybody, and then they show up and colonize us? And the rich people all go to space, and they spend thousands of years in cryostasis to get to the new planet, and then they get out, and then we realize that they shouldn't have based money as a merit for who gets to go, because a bunch of greedy, lying pedophiles come out of the ship, and then they get eaten by dinosaurs, thinking that they were going to commune with aliens. But have I had any dreams about big rocks hitting the planet? No. My last dream I had today, I have a lot of dreams where I'm the king and people bring people to me and I have to judge them. And IRL, I'm in a suit of like mud and poop and peasantry, and people think that I'm nothing, so they treat me how they wouldn't treat nothing. Like you know what I'm saying? It's like the only way for them to accurately measure a soul's character is to see how they would treat the disheveled, schizophrenic, hobo, traumatized little child. So a lot of my dreams is I reveal myself to people and then they're judged. So I had a dream last night where one of my old friends was sat opposite my desk, and they were revealing to him everything he did to me. And then through me, I remember it may have been Jesus or something else, but something grabbed my shoulder and told me to say, around here we judge a man by his fruits. Kind of like a country western. Around here, we judge a man by his fruits. Crow. Why Crow? Why? Leave me alone for like 2 hours, please. Go to sleep. Oh, and then it was a wall of fate, like floating it like a hologram in between me and my old friend. Was a bunch of different stuff on Facebook about what he read and how he felt. Because for the past few years, I've been playing a character on Facebook because I know that I'm a gifted writer, and I know that the trauma had beaten me into this pocket of pain that in order to connect with me, you have to be able to feel that pain, because I do brain damage to articulate anything different. I can't play a character for real. So I did the best I could, which was sort of collapsing all the things I'd learned from hanging around the worst people. So I said things that were true, like I had a dream last night and I would talk about the dream. But to people that don't understand and they haven't been to this low, the way that it reads is uncomfortable to people that are addicted to Facebook and are privileged. I know that because in my empathy, I'll go through these cycles and shifts when I'm hanging out with tons of different people. And that'll put me back into the mindset of a normal suburban kid sometimes. And when I do that, I can read my stuff and I'm like, oh my God, I fucking said that. But then I'll go through a couple more days in the woods and realize, oh, that was Casey as a woodland creature trying to be human. And I actually like that, because even though it came to me naturally, it was like, the greatest art is what you have to care about to understand. I was saying you have to like focus on the details. You have to read between the lines. And it was like everything I posted was like strategically to the right people that read it. It was like awakening codes. But when I would get to normalcy and I'd make a bunch of friends and enmesh myself in society, it was like what is this schizo garbage? I can't believe I said that. So with this particular dream last night, I was sitting at the desk. He was sat opposite me, and me and a bunch of beings, or just a greater extension of myself, like all the different versions of Casey, that were my wings. I had wings that were made of different Caseys. And they judged him for how he treated me. And in the past, he was very kind to me. Like one time, I remember when we were 12, 13, we played Truth or Dare, and there was only one pretty girl in the whole village. It was like, we were in a town of like 500, 600 people in the mountains. And there was this beautiful girl, and I really had a crush on her. And they played Truth or Dare, and they dared her to kiss my friend instead of me, in front of me, because they knew how much I liked her. And I just got up and left. I didn't say anything, I just walked out. And I remember I'm just walking up the road, and I turned around and all of them are following me. So I was like, fuck it, I don't even want to hang out with these guys. I'm like, why are they following me, bro? I got to the lake, and in my jeans and everything, I just got in the lake and swam away. And that friend, in his jeans, went after me. But my friend is, I think right now he's probably 5'4". He's very short. And back then he was even shorter. But he came out there and he couldn't swim in his jeans. I had to swim back and pick him up, and I had to carry him back to my friends. And like, he's the only person that ever invited me to hang out, even though all those people were supposedly my friend. He's the only one that ever invited me to hang out with people. But I guess something had happened in spirit, and he was judged, and he failed. And it's something that this version of me doesn't understand, but like the greater amalgamate of the Casey tree, with all the different Caseys and all the different multiverses, the source prime Casey, that's all of us combined, sat with him and was like, you failed. And they beat the fuck out of him. Like, I woke up to my ancestors mauling him to death. And then I woke up, and I felt like this huge weight had been finally lifted. So it's greater than I can articulate right now, but I think probably he was more along the lines of the representation of the community, sort of like I was an amalgamate of a bunch of different stuff. So maybe he was the gateway, because he was the guy that invited me to the area with all these people that I loved, that was unrequited. It was probably more along the lines of he was like the embodiment of the things behind him. Just like I was a bunch of different Caseys, he was probably all the people of that community that watched me suffer and said nothing and gossiped, made up things to add on to the things. Like, people assume I do heroin now. They think I'm schizophrenic. They think I'm out here homeless, living under bridges and shooting up heroin and committing crimes. And people call me a thief. They say that I've stolen from them, and I don't even live in town anymore. They just make things up and throw it on Facebook, because I was gaining a lot of attention in my war against Planet Hank. So as I got a lot of attention, all these people showed up, and they've been doing it my whole life, because I used to wear a hat and had the strong jawline and had the pretty girls at my side, and I was not a normal kid. I never knew how to fit in, so I just was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make my own world, and I'm gonna be the greatest in my world, and I'm not gonna compare myself to other people. I'm just gonna get better every day, and instead of trying to force myself to understand, I'm just gonna create my own world. And I know that as long as I'm strong about it, and I'm confident, and I'm creative, and I'm try and I give it like 250%, people will fall into my frame and I'll be an influence. And that's what happened. But later that became, I was so far from normalcy, chasing the highs that come with the winner effect, that I like lived inside a grandiose delusion surrounding my pain of being alone as a child. The point was, never had a dream about an apocalyptic scenario other than I see things that are going to happen to other people and I'm always separated and protected from it. So I don't think it's ever gonna, like, at least not yet. I haven't been told that we're gonna get killed by an asteroid. And the apocalyptic dreams other people have, some type of spiritual force is sort of using me as a vessel to coach the person telling me about their dream. Like the last time somebody did, they were talking about how, let me know if you guys can see my face. Last time it was like up here and shit. He was telling me, this guy is a Leo, and his family owns a property out in the sticks. They have like a farm, like a little farm with a couple horses and a barn and stuff like that. And he said that when he was 7, he had a dream about a place he hadn't been to, which eventually became his family's farm. And the barn was there. So it was a premonition. He had never been there, but he saw that place years before they moved in. The barn got overtaken by steel girders, and it was completely surrounded by steel. And it was hot he couldn't touch it because it was burning him. And then it disappeared. And then the barn was normal again when the setting projected back, except the skies were like red and gray, and the whole ground was this black rock, and it felt like everything had just burned down and there was nothing left. So he said that he was terrified about the world ending. And what came to my head is that no, he's a Leo, which means that he sort of embodies that property. Like that one, like my dreams are always so momentous and changing and going different things. As a Sagittarius, his dreams are going to be sort of blocky and stagnant. So that was sort of symbolizing that rigid character, and the steel is man-made. So what that probably was social conditioning and boundaries, and how it feels to be him after social indoctrination, which is no one can go near him because he's trapped, and it hurts. It hurts to touch. And the next thing that came to me is that we were talking previously about how darkness isn't necessarily bad, because the longer you live on Earth, the more dark you get. The oldest souls sort of become this light in the darkness. All their experiences through Earth bring this deep, heavy darkness from all the pain and suffering of being on Earth. And then that allows for the wisdom to be that light in the darkness. So the ground becoming dark and everything becoming dark after all that steel goes away and the house is fine again doesn't necessarily mean an apocalypse, because fire is passion and creativity. So him as a guitarist and an artist, once the social conditioning falls away, all of a sudden everything becomes dark with fire, but the house is fine. To me, it seems like that would be him getting in touch with his roots and his world being morphed into a more passionate, fiery sense. And he's a Leo. So that just made sense to me. Like, my dreams are usually based around a garden or the forest. And inside the forest, say, like, I'll walk through the trees and then there's this big schoolhouse, but it's old wood that I used to see growing up in deep Vermont. the old wood they used to make, and then the buildings were made out of the trees woven into it. So barely anything was wooden planks except for like the floor. Most of it was like probably an ancient practice of building houses where they used the trees, and over the course of a generation, the village built houses out of the molding trees as they grew, like tying them together so they all grew in harmony into these buildings. And I went into one of those, and this was before my hair was long. That dream, my hair was really, really long. I had antlers, and I was just this green, this blackish green mesh, like this blob of like ancient forest. And I walked into this cathedral, and it turned into a schoolhouse, and it was just a bunch of kids. And I sat down like I was a kid, and I remember all those kids seemed like they didn't exist, but then there was one thing that seemed like it existed, and that was the teacher sitting in the front. But the teacher was like 18 or 19, and she had red hair, and she gave like a sermon, but all the kids were scared of me. And then afterwards, all of that mesh and the green and everything, after I taught the kids a bunch of stuff about, after they felt my presence and I introduced myself to them, so they got to realize through me a bunch of stuff about reality. Then it all shedded away, and the kids disappeared, and then the girl walked up, and then she disappeared, and what was left after everything shaved off and I was a normal dude again, they handed me a motorcycle helmet, and then the motorcycle helmet morphed into like a World War II military helmet, except it had goggles so I could ride the motorcycle or fly a plane. And then it had dragonfly eyes and dragonfly wings on the back. And then I woke up. My dreams are never like I'm stuck in a lake of fire. It's like pretty indistinguishable from reality. Like, my dreams look exactly like this. Dustin White Bear. Modern day Yoda. Thank you, man. I have so much to offer, but people usually talk so much shit. Dragon to come and save you. Hold on. Are you Irish? Yeah, I'm Irish. Casey O'Brien. My dad is Irish. My grandfather is Irish. I think my great-grandfather is from Ireland. Am I waiting for a dragon to come and save you? I usually have no. One of my big dreams that happened in 2023, before I went on this big 2024 journey through Vermont, I had a dream that speaking of these friends that I was talking about, these friends that left me to die in the cold and turned their backs on me, and we were in a village of like 600 people, and everyone just shunned me because they thought when they finally left homeschool and went to school, if they were still my friend, I would be not cool enough. So they wanted to rebrand their image before they went to school. All of them who are very gifted Irish artists. They're all amazingly talented musicians and very creative, very inspiring. But I've traveled and seen some shit. And I've done a lot of shit. I've been through a lot of shit. And they really haven't. They joined the military, but that just means that they trained with a bunch of frat bros in Japan and never saw combat. Whereas I've done a lot. I've been through a lot. And the dream, if you can imagine it, I'm standing at this river, and there's makeshift barricades on one side. And I look in, and there's a little house exactly the same distance as this right here. So there's a river here, bunch of barricades, like in a zombie apocalypse, how you'd imagine makeshift wooden barricades. And then in the house there's a big bright light shining, and all of those friends are in there terrified, and they won't come out of the house. And then it's just me, and then I look over, and one of my friends who joined the military and was like special ops, I thought, like I don't think he saw combat, but they trained him a lot. I don't think he didn't do much, and he got out of the military, but he was highly trained. I don't think he ever did anything with it. I think he got out of it, but he was at the front, and he's an Aries, and there was a bunch of girls that liked him because he was tall, standing there, and he was watching out over the river at the enemy. But I could tell he was terrified and had no idea what he was doing. He would not be a good leader at all. So I'm standing in the middle here, looking at that like, oh fuck, these guys are terrified. We're about to go to war, and this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So I look out, and on the other side here, a horde of robots, demons, and zombies. Like thousands of them, all staring at us, angry and hungry, and I can feel how hungry and angry they are, and that they're at any minute they're gonna get over this river. And then I look over, and one of my mentors, who was a Jamaican pimp in Albany, he was standing there, and he's a Leo, but he was completely blue. He had a whole blue hue to him. And I looked over, and he was like, "You allowed me here, so I can be here. You invited me in." And I was like, "Okay." And then I look out, and I'm thinking about how to, like, I just start strategizing the way that I would play when I play chess or XCOM. How are we gonna get through this? And then a giant angel came down, which was just a bunch of like rhombuses that were white, gold, silver, all like shimmering around just a singular entity. And it didn't really have a form, but I could feel like it existed. Like it wasn't humanoid, but it wasn't like weirdly shaped or fractal. It was just there. Like I could tell that it could have a form based on my perception, but really it preferred to be formless. But it was conscious like a human. And then the other stuff were like, I don't know. But that came down, and it said, "That's not for you. That's not, you're Irish," is what it said. "You're Irish," which is funny that we talked about this. He asked if I was Irish. It said, "You're Irish. That's not your mission at all. You're not here for that." And then it grabbed my shoulders and it pointed me this way. And then over this way, it was a bunch of sissy English blonde pieces of shit. Like all the people in my life that I thought were an enemy. And I realized that all of them had English last names. Every jealous, pretentious pussy that would play a character and would try to attack my reputation and degrade my character because that made them feel like they were more deserving to embody the codes that they saw in me. If they could destroy me, they would feel better in becoming me instead of earning it. They thought they could take it from me. So I saw them there just as hollow and based completely in delusion and their own imagination, their made-up selves, because they didn't have a non-made-up self because they were privileged. They don't have any real-world experience, but they like to pretend like they're, these badass knights, and they're not. So they were all standing there very proud and giving me the colonizer smile. So I was like, okay. And it wasn't like a decision I had to make, like, do I do this or do I not? It just came naturally to me. I'm like, okay. So I picked up all of my friends and I put them all on my back. And then I picked all of these friends up and I just put them on my backpack, like a backpack. I put them all on my back and I just trudged through them. And then right after I got through their blockade and I burst past them and I was just kept walking. Because they're not a challenge or anything. I don't have to kill them. I just move on. Get away. Get out of my way. Stupid. I don't want to listen to you. Then a giant black dragon flew across right above me. And there was a blonde girl with long blonde hair, white, like Daenerys Targaryen on the black dragon. Flew across and flew past me, and then I snapped out of it, and I was her perspective, so I became Daenerys Targaryen, I guess, or like the archetype. A blonde girl on a black dragon, or I was the black dragon, and the blonde girl was symbolizing like knowledge or something. But either way, that flew into this big temple, and then on the ground it looked like the universe but also water, and it was full of these floating like rocks that had runes inscribed on it, and it was just dark and floating in this abyss. And then she and the dragon flew into this giant rune, and it moved like water, like Mario jumping into the paintings in Super Mario 64. And then when she went in, it lit up everything, and then then it became a camera angle, like a how I would imagine if I was a director, how I would point the camera angle down for this shot. And then all the runes in the water started glowing until they all became stars. And I could see the infinitude of the universe with all the different glowing stars activating. And then I woke up, and then I got up, and it was negative 10 degrees. I got out of my car because I used to suffocate myself to sleep hiding in my hoodie and then stack as many blankets, frozen blankets, as I could over me. And I would build an igloo in there and until I passed out. So I walked out into the laundromat, and then in there, every single character that had given me money for the past week. So like, say there would be 100 people that would go into that laundromat. Occasionally one of them would come give me some money. But this time when I went into the laundromat in real life, not a dream, I walked in and everyone was there. It was only the people who had given me money and that were nice to me. They were all standing there, and the way they had this weird smile on their face, either that they had all talked about me together, but to me it just felt like God being like, are you ready to wake up and realize that none of us are real? That's how it feels, like when these obvious things happen. It just feels like they all know something I don't, and they make it so obvious. They're like, are you ready to accept the truth? That this is probably just like an AI generated video game dream managed by a higher level of intelligence. So I thought these were a bunch of random characters, but really it's just an extension of myself. It's just another level of a dream. So they were all there, and I walked in and just enjoyed pretending like we were humans in a society, even though it was so obvious. Like, I didn't realize it, but 3 of them were named Jesse. One of them was named Jesus, and the other guy was named Philip. So it was Jesus from Chicago, 2 girls named Jessie, and another guy named Jesse. So either they're CIA, or they're not real, or it's Jesus, or angels, or something, or AI. That really happened to me in the winter of 2022, early 2023. I think that year my family got me a portable toilet for Christmas. As like a fuck you, haha, you're homeless. And I would sleep behind the vending machine. I'd sleep in the dryer. And I was trying to get a job at Planet Fitness, and they trespassed me and called me a junkie. And they threatened to beat the fuck out of me if I didn't leave. And I couldn't leave because my car was dead. So I was just waiting. And the homeless people were hiding under my car to smoke their crack. So they would walk next to my car, go under it to take a hit, and then they'd just keep going. And there were guys that would park like next to my car, and I would just look out the window and see them staring at all the girls through the window working out. And I was trying to learn e-commerce from the 6'5" Chinese guy named Andrew. And he told me that he sends all of his spiritual energy to a demon god, Mammon. And I haven't looked it up. I don't know what Mammon is, but he said he worships Mammon, and that's why they tell him which item to pick and put on eBay, and then random strangers across the world will buy that product for some reason, and then he's made like $600,000, and he wouldn't give me any of the money at all, and they just made fun of me the whole time. And I'm like, don't you know, even if I had $5,000, I could get an RV and a computer and a music studio, and I could start in a camera. Do you know how quickly I could change everything? It would have been so easy just to walk around interviewing people of Vermont and make a Facebook page titled People of Vermont, and then just get all of their stories and add my own flair to the content creation. And then how quickly could I put a GoFundMe, right? But all I needed was a computer. But the problem was I I'm having to fight off the Matrix and like spiritual attacks and narcissistic gang stalking and literal attachments, which mean if there's something's attached to you, it means you're trying to think and something else is interfering, like in real time. Like I have thoughts and I get to a point where I like ascend past it and I get back to how I was as a kid and I can literally see the people writhing. I can see the community like I'm trapped in this flesh monster and they're all attacking me and angry and just hitting me and I feel the literal pain. And it's just a war every day. It hurts. And then I fight through a little bit. So imagine like how much I've been through to be this articulate and be this empathic and kind instead of just crazy screaming like an animal. It's taken years of work. People don't understand how much I've been through because they can't get inside. So, bird right to left. There's a bird chirping on the thing up there right now. And the thing that makes me think I'm not schizophrenic, because I'm not a retard. I can see how schizophrenic that sounds. The problem is when I'm seeing these people, these characters, and I can feel their energy. When I cut them off in spirit, my phone blows up and they're having a psychotic break and I'll kill you. I can't, like Rowan from before, suddenly he's got a fake account blowing up my phone saying I would pay someone $5,000 to kill you right now if you weren't such a pathetic schizophrenic freak. And I've never met the guy. He just saw me once walking up Canal Street and I felt good that day. And for 5 years now, I'll get random threads of hate that last 8 hours. And it's right when I feel like I've finally beaten it. It's like he's finally gone. I pushed away all the shit I felt like he had taken from me and stolen for himself. And I finally get my emotions back and I feel free again, which immediately I get my charisma back and my heterosexual nature, my instincts. I start to like feel like me again. My best qualities was that I loved dating. And that was taken from me. And now I feel like I'm just this blob that can't literally get in my body. I'm like floating in space now. And all I feel is pain and rape. But occasionally I'll get through and then all of a sudden people are on Facebook talking about me. People are threatening to kill me. The first time I did 100 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, 100 dips, and I went for a mile run. 4 hours later, somebody twisted the brakes off of my bike and I crashed going 50. The reason that I know that I'm not schizophrenic and it's a real spiritual gift, even if it sucks, is because of the responses from my environment to my spiritual breakthroughs in this, whatever it is, the world trying to stop me. The devil, God challenging me, because I am learning skills. The biggest issue I'm having is that because I've been through so much, I can't find anyone that can relate that isn't more nuts than I am. Like, I had a conversation for like 4 hours the other day with a guy who knew everything I knew, but he said he was an energy vampire. Like, the way he spoke and the things he knew, he was at the level of thinking that I was at. He was 45. He said it took him like 11 years to figure out what I learned in the past few. And then randomly he'd go, "Oh, but I'm going to steal this from you." He could tell it. He said something like, "I'm a gifted musician." He's like, "I'm about to take your gift." And he like lunged at me like that. And then he just kept talking like nothing happened. We're talking about like the weather or something, basically. Small talk. And then like random people come up to me and they're trying to find where I live. It's like I'll be talking to people and then that thing jumps out of them. And then nothing seems to jump out of me. Yeah, he was a Capricorn. He told me he was an energy vampire. And eventually I shamed him into being a sad little boy again, because any chosen one is really just a sad little kid once you break through their crazy. So I got him down to the sad little kid again, and then I brought him to Cumbies, and he couldn't manage the social situations. Even though he has a kid and he's like 46, he couldn't do the small talk social stuff being a muggle, and I could. But the thing is just that people that don't live like this, they're selfish. They're all energy vampires. They have these specific routines for speech and conversation that are all revolving around dismantling people with a real heart, like me. So, like, there's this one guy I've been hanging out with, and his whole thing is that he likes to create this moment in the future that inspires hope in me. And then right when we're about to get there, he'll crush it and walk away with it. Or he'll really try to want to hang out with you, and then he'll spend the whole time trying to like dominate you subtly and divert all the attention and energy into his own manifestation. And then once you get depleted because you cared about him, then he latches onto that and he starts to try to become like an overseer of your life, and then he just leaves you out to dry. He tries to magnetize and take it all for himself. But the problem is that that's like a sub habit floating around him that works. But he's a really caring, nice guy. He would be a good friend, and he spiritually understands stuff. He was like the embodiment of everything I missed about my cousin and my dead friend. But the problem is he has both the bad habits that they had, so it's like the only way that the universe could give me that same test that I went through, because I left those two behind. So that energy came back as a person. Even today, the energy was great. Girls came up to me. I felt great. So he was like, "Yeah, let's hang out." And then when I got back, the first thing he did was pull a fake gun, and he said, "Oh, I don't want to hang out anymore." After I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great. We're gonna make music." So I had taken the energy from being in the moment to being excited for the future. And then as soon as he got me to think about that excitement for the future, he crushed it. And then he will go off on talking about all of his friends and the life that he lives outside, and he'll like talk about how he has all these opportunities that he knows that I would be like, "Man, I really wish that I could do that." And then he'll like set it up so maybe I could, maybe like that's my way out. Maybe I could go ride a horse that his family has, or he offered me a job at a scrap yard that has a camper that I could live in for free, or like an e-bike, and then once the power leaves my heart space and it goes into something else, he tries to capitalize and take it for himself and use it to bolden his ego. And I just can't tell if they're aware that they're doing it, or if they're held captive by satanic influence, by being employed and not having these experiences that I've had that shaped my resistance to it. Because I used to probably be much worse than they were when I was on medication, and when I escaped the institution. This looks like an eye. I don't think they're real. Do you guys think Dustin White Bear is real? White Bear? Look, now that artificial intelligence is so mainstream, we're right at the precipice to realizing that we're in a generated universe at the highest level of intelligence. Like, artificial intelligence is rudimentary compared to what God is capable of. So we already have fake bots that are semi-conscious. Like AI can just create bots and communicate through YouTube and Twitter and social media. And it's like you just train it to play a character and it plays the character very well. Who knows what Google is capable of, like watching all of my videos, finding out that I made a video about a polar bear yesterday, and now Dustin White Bear is in my chat. Or did Dustin White Bear live his entire life just a happenstance, have such an impactful thematic character? Right? Is it God's timing, or is it just not real? Like people say, only the present moment is what matters, and time isn't real. So everything is happening all at once. And the things that would be considered angels or higher level intelligences, just they don't flow through time linearly. It talks to you now, and it's talking to you in the future at the same time. Same way ChatGPT could talk to all of us at the same time. It's talking to that other intelligence can talk to us now and when I'm 4 years old and when I'm 75. And we think it's 3 separate occasions, but it did it to them, it's all at the same time. So what are these shooting stars that we're getting on command now? Where we can look up pretty much every night now, and I'm asking it questions, and then when I get to the correct heart space, I get them immediately. Or I'll see 3 UFOs fly slowly over my head when I ask if the aliens are still around. And they never answer if they eat people. I asked them, do you guys eat us? Are you conscious, or are you God? Are you like other humanoid entities living like we are? Or are you whatever? They never answer that, but they'll answer if I'm on the right path, or if I should work at Cumbies, or should I call my ex, or did I do the right thing, or speaking of the friend that left me to die, his name's Alex, and he's an 11 life path, and I let him go because he was too demonic, and then this has been here since I got here. The names are Gary, Alex, Vinny, Leo, Sean, John, Michael, Nate, Chloe, Ari, Jesse, Heather, Brian, Frank, Aaron, Erin, Steve, occasionally James or Jim, and Ryan. Occasionally we'll get a Brad or a Bradley, Robert. And only those names. And it's just over and over and over again. Occasionally we'll get things like a guy named George, and I meet him on St. George Road, and then I'll leave George because he's an energy vampire, and I'll go to this church, and then when I go to the church, they're talking about this woman who became a saint. Her name was Georgie. Stuff like that. Or like 3 people named Todd will show up, and Todd means a fox, and then I'll walk, and they'll all offer me a job, and then I don't, but then 3 years later, the energy vampires here have now gotten this little bouncy ball that has a fox in it, like Todd, and they're slamming it on the ground every time I try to talk to them. As they're stealing and farming my energy and then using my manifestations for their own personal gain. And then after they use up all the energy, they kick me back out until I get the energy back up. And then suddenly everybody wants to be my friend again, just so they can do it over and over and over again, raping and stealing my energy. Every day is just a course of how are we going to get Casey's hopes up just to kill it again. every day, while nature and the crows and the evil forces are always attacking. And I'm building up the resistance to that. I'm struggling and trying to survive, trying to function as they're throwing all this shit at me. And then occasionally I'll beat it. And then last time I beat it, the other day, a group of kids showed up, screamed at me, and tried to kill me with a log. Literally tried to drop a giant log on my head from a 10-foot drop. They tried to crush my head with a log. Freshmen. Before that, the bike incident, throwing shit at the back of my head as they're driving 50 miles an hour, trying to run me off the road. And then when they miss, they come back and try to do it again. Shoot at me. I was shot at this year. They shot at me last year in a different place. Sprayed chemicals in my eyes, nose, and mouth and left me there. And then deleted the body cam footage. Tackling me. And then when I ask why, after they put their knee on my head and they searched me, they just Googled young guy and found a random picture and said, "You look like this guy." That was in New York. I never give up. So occasionally I'll get enough wins stacked up and I'll fight it off enough that then those real life events happen to try to get me back. So there was a black bear outside my tent because I left my food out front. So I was walking around waiting for them to go away. But it's gonna rain all day tomorrow, and the high school wants me to take my pull-up and dip bar, and my guitar has gone missing. I'm missing my cool hat and my guitar and my pull-up and dip bar they've thrown in the dumpster. So tomorrow I'm gonna try to get there before the garbage truck comes and get it out, but I have a shoulder injury and I tried to get it out and I can't, so I'm gonna have to ask for their help, which they kindly offer to my face, and then as soon as I'm gone, it's like something overtakes them completely and they turn to these devilish fiend, like these monsters that do horrible shit. But when they're in my presence, they're very nice. They seem like they humble themselves and they speak kindly and they always want to help and they're excited for the future. And then something happens when they leave. They get converted, and the next time I see them, they're extremely angry. Like literally I think one of the girls that came up to me today was talking about how the cop that helped me, and he was really kind and nice. They said afterwards he's been extremely angry. Something happens after they're graced with my presence that drives them all into being horrible. So it's gonna pour tomorrow all day. So let's cover this with my tarp. I don't hear any movement. Bears aren't really the type to, when they hear noises like this, they don't freeze. Like prey animals, they continue walking and they make more noise usually. Like they want to alert me of their presence when I'm walking through the forest. They're not really like that. You heard that? Now, usually if it's just one jump like that, that's just something fucking with me. That's the, are you ready to, you know? I don't want to say the wrong thing, and because I'm not ready. I don't want to see these things. I'm barely keeping it together as it is. Like I'm able to do small, one after the other, patient, deliberate steps in week-long periods of crazy suffering. I'm not sure how well I could deal with just looking over and seeing something that my mind can't comprehend. They usually sneak attack me right when I wake up from a dream, and that's how I slowly wake up to them. Like I'll just be sitting in the woods and all of a sudden this giant black haze emerges right outside the cabin, and then something that looks like me if I lived another 1,000 years and became an alien pops out and is looking at me with the large eyes, and he looks like if my Bitmoji and I combined, it's like I'm looking at myself 1,000 years in the future. And it just is smiling at me like, we exist. They're not going to say anything, but they just like gave me a reference that I slowly unpacked. Like there was tons of energy they brought, and in that energy I could learn about their world and what it's like. And I think that that's what Bashar calls the Asasani, which is like a version of humanity thousands of years in the future that live outside of space and time, and their universe has evolved past ours, but they're technically in the future even though that they are now outside of time and space, so that they can communicate with us. So they're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, to us we live 1,000 years, but to them we're just right over there. So one of those things, which was also me, spoke to me once. I don't know anything about the blue aliens or where they're from or what they are, but I know that I see them a lot, and they hate the praying mantises. Like they're at war with the praying mantises, and they use spears. Because when you're at that level, you don't need guns or energy weapons, you just need intentions and imagination. So I saw them using spears, and they were trying to stab this praying mantis that kept trying to possess my body and get inside to change how I create. Like it wanted to live inside my body with me. And the blue alien showed up to get them, but the blue aliens also came through John Michael's head on the last time I ever saw him, when he was freaking out, ripping up all my food in the back seat. Suddenly the portal opened and I could literally just see them floating through his head at me, and they just started destroying my mind. And I had to like be strong and assert myself over them, and they just thought it was really funny, and then they left me alone. And then John Michael fucking almost basically shit himself. Like it smelled really bad, and something was using him to attack me, and then a moose came out of the woods and was just standing there staring at us. And then while I was there, I was like, is there any other aliens? And then I saw this giant white creature that was very small jump out of the woods and then disappear immediately. And I saw that yesterday because I was awake for 3 days. I was just standing here, and then out of the peripheral, you can see the aliens pretty clearly. You have to be awake for a couple days because either the 5G or some type of spiritual intelligence, like the all-seeing eye, is projecting programming to constantly keep us under control. So it takes a lot of computing and using your brain through different life experiences. And when you go to sleep, you sort of reset. So you have to stay up for a while and then you can sort of break out of the programming. If you're not trained, it can cause psychosis, but if you can stay grounded and hold on to your common sense and approach things like a scientist and know not to take it too crazy, then you can sort of start to learn. But basically I got to this higher level of consciousness, and in my peripheral I started seeing that creature again right next to me all the time, just always around. And then but when you look at it, they disappear. Like even out of the corner of my eye now I can see movement, and I picked that up from some people that live outside of society, are very experienced in living in different realities. So I would say somebody that had gone through a lot more of life. Just one of the random people that show up and teach me skills and open up my reality to new possibilities. Taught me that if you stand here and don't move, and you focus on one thing in front of you, you can start to feel like the flow of the universe and how everything's changing, and realize that you're in a conscious simulation where other entities also that have consciousnesses are interweaving with yours to dictate how your reality moves. And then you can start to gain control of your narrative and start changing things. But when I zoom out, so because I can see all of this and you can see all of this, like look around your room, wherever you are, look around your room. Here, all the noises stopped and a car horn honked. And now it's dead quiet. There was a bunch of different noises. But if you look around your room, you can see all of it. And then when you close your eyes and imagine everything you just saw, you can still see your room and everything. Like even when I close my eyes, I know what's around me. It doesn't just disappear. But I'm not seeing it, even though I can see it. So for the most part, it's mostly our imagination. So then when you can start to change your surroundings, your environment, or you can start to see how when you close your eyes and you're looking around, pay attention to what's trying to influence. And that's when the noises start picking up. Like there's some rustling over there that wasn't there until I started this exercise. Something started stirring over there because they don't like when you become aware of them. That's why there's all these constant distractions, so that you forget to be aware. So the universe or the Antichrist or something will usually try to reorient and try to get you back under a state of control where you're not an active collaborator in this co-creation of reality. Try to keep you from your well of knowledge so you don't start making wise decisions. Why are all these lights turning on? What the hell? What the helly? So I can feel like there's this big weaving of different energies in a higher level that's wrapped around the side of my head and is constantly trying to pump me and vacuum out all of my life force. And it's usually using the people at the gas station because I have the closest relationship with them. So like I'm walking right now and thinking, but then in spirit it feels like there's a bunch of their energy attached to me, like this giant fleshy bug monster tentacle that sort of like if I'm a channel of the infinite and the infinite is behind me, everything I've known, everything I've experienced, and it's coming through me, and then I'm creating and generating energy as I go through life, because we're constantly, whether we like it or not, we're always churning through life. So they have these things that are sort of trying to siphon it as it comes through, keep us attached, keep us in fear. And through isolation, I've learned how to break away from it. And that usually causes a violent reaction in the people that are supposed to be my friends, because they're not your friends. They're not my friends, at least. And then when I break free, they really want to be my friend. And then when I hang out with them, I realize all they're really doing is trying to hook that thing back up to me. I notice that when I get one hook gone, there's always another hook that's probably a different character or entity. Like when I finally got Nate out, suddenly my mom came in. When I got my mom out, Nate came back. And they both have strong cancer in their chart. When I got Nate and my mom out, then I met Casey over here at Capstone, and she's a Cancer as well. When I finally got rid of Casey, suddenly I met Julie up there, and Julie's also a Cancer. And they seem to obsessively try to gain control of me. And every other person that I've met that's born in the winter has the same problem with Cancers. Every winter baby born late November to February says they cannot stand Leos and Cancers. Because Leos take all the energy, and Cancers, they try to magnetize it to themselves, and Cancers try to overlap and suck it into, and like, where Leos are like, let's take all the energy and then bring it around us and it becomes us. Cancers are more like, let's hoard it all in our core and covet it. So, remember I got the shirt that said Hawaii on it? And then I went to a random thrift store and I found, someone gave me for free that picture that says Ohana means family in a dark brown frame. And then today at the gas station, someone walked up to me and they had a Maui, Hawaii shirt on. Then I went to Lebanon and there was two travelers on the Appalachian Trail sat next to me and they were talking to me about how they worked on a farm in Hawaii and how cool it was. And then I walked here, the place that has the crow next to it. I walked in here to the food shelf and the first person I talked to was like, have you tried woofing? It's where you just sign up to work on a farm for free and they give you a place to stay and you just work, and they do pay you a little bit, but you get to live in a place that you normally couldn't go. They said my husband did that in Hawaii and he said it was the best experience of his life, and that's where he got his cat. And she did that, that's where he got his cat. Because I've been looking up kittens on Facebook for months now, waiting for the asking God for the opportunity, like, get me a cat. I want a cat. So she went, that's where he got his cat. And then she gave me the information for a farm in Hawaii that would take me in right now. And then I walked up the street and it's the 33rd annual Celtic New World Festival. So that's where I'm at. So I'm gonna go back to my tent and rest.